you so much for being here. So for those who don't know who I am, I'm the Executive Director of the Clinton County History Center. My name is Shelby Bowman, and we are very excited to bring the Scoreboard Speaks to you again tonight, our monthly programming series based on our current sports exhibit at the Clinton County History Center. If you don't know the Clinton County History Center or have never interacted with us, we are the county's museum, historical society, and genealogical research library. We are located just across the street from Cava House, but we do the entire county's history and genealogy. Our mission is preserving, promoting, and educating Clinton County's history and genealogy for the benefit of everyone, so that includes you. And we're very excited to have the opportunity to have some gentlemen joining us, as well as a gentleman from Michigan joining us. So we're excited to have some people from far away for our monthly programming series. But as you may or may not know, Mark Huber from the Wilmington News Journal, sports editor, is our MC of our monthly programming. And without further ado, I will be happy to bring Mark up to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. No matter what the sport has been, from back in the 40s, 50s, every sport has changed. Baseball, basketball, football, doesn't really matter. Some have changed a little bit more than others. But when you consider sports and all the different things that make up an athletic event, this night may be the one that has undergone the biggest change. For those who have coached, I coached back in the 80s, and some coached a little further back than that. The coach was the trainer. Ice pack, tape, if that didn't fix it, I'm not sure what else did. But now, every event, most every event, has got a certified athletic trainer on the site. And, we may talk about this later, but sometimes I wonder how that would have changed things had there been a real trainer back in, before they had face masks, before they had hard shell helmets. How many people would have been diagnosed with a concussion and had to sit out when, there was never a second thought given at that time. So, to have these people, I think, with us tonight, we span, 60, 80 years? 60 years, I guess. Russell Miller, you can see on the bio, he went to Wilmington College, and he was a student athletic trainer, and then became we believe, the first official athletic trainer in Wilmington College history. And then he went on to be a trainer for the University of Michigan football team and also for the Detroit Tigers professional baseball team. Russell, are you with us? Russell?
Hello, yes, I can. You're a little bit backward.
Okay.
With an echo, but yes. And let me say thank you very much for letting me participate in your program.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us. Perry Denehy, who is on the left over there. Perry, these three have such diverse connections to Clinton County. Russell was here in college. Perry, family, deep roots in Clinton County, even though he didn't go to school here. And then we have Craig Lindsey, who went to school here in Clinton County at Clinton Massey. And so they all have different sort of levels of connection to our county, but they all have one thing completely in common, and that's they, I think that for me personally, I think there are three legends in the athletic training field, however you want to cut it. these three certainly qualify. And I think they'll give us some interesting insight into how that field has evolved over the years. So we'll start out with a question, and I'll direct this one. Russell, you can start. How did your time here at Wilmington College and in Clinton County shape your career path as an athletic trainer?
Well, you know, Wilmington College offered me, first of all, the opportunity to get an education through their outstanding work-study program. Now, this is a program, if you're not familiar with it, was where you went to school 3 days a week and worked at a factory or someplace in Wilmington 3 days a week. The other thing that was so important, and I didn't realize it at the time, but as a freshman, I had the opportunity to be the student athletic trainer for the football team. Now, I'm 18 years old. You know, I hadn't been out of Hardin County in Ohio.
I think you're back with us, Russ. He's talking.
I think the audio's. We can't hear you yet. I think your audio's still connecting.
Hello,
There you go. You're good.
we're back.
Yes.
So you hadn't been out of Hardin County.
Okay, let me start all over again. Again, here I was, an 18-year-old who had the opportunity to go to a college, work as a student trainer for the football team. They didn't have a full-time trainer. Plus, they had this great work-study program where I worked 3 days a week and went to school 3 days a week. To be honest with you, that was the only way I was going to be able to go to college. So I started working with the football team as a freshman. After my freshman year then, Fred Risk, who was the athletic director, basketball coach, track, whatever, asked me to work with the basketball team. And that's how it all started. Working 3 days a week, going to school 3 days, and working as a student trainer from football to basketball. I was a student track coach my junior year. And finally, after 4 years, the problem I was faced with was that I didn't have enough hours to graduate after 4 years, simply because you had to take a reduced load, let work, etc. And basically, the university said to the athletic department, if you'll come back the 5th year and finish up, we will give you a graduate equivalent assistantship. So I came back for the 5th year, but then they said after that, then we want to hire you full time. And I thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Now, keep in mind now, we're in the early 60s. You all know what was going on then. It's Vietnam, okay? So I knew, obviously, a lot of my high school classmates, a lot of my other friends, obviously, were in the service, whatever. And I I knew that I probably would get drafted, and I didn't know what to do. And basically, my draft board back home said, take your college job, we know where you are. Well, I never did serve in the military, but see, starting at Wilmington College, you know, what an opportunity. And it gave me the driver. So when they hired me full time, I was co-director of the intramural program. I took care of all the athletic equipment, plus being the student trainer, plus being the trainer, athletic trainer, and plus taught a class. And so that's my basis. Prior to going to Wilmington, I started as like a manager at junior high and high school, and didn't really think that my whole future would develop the way that it did. I'm an extremely lucky individual. I had the opportunity to work with outstanding athletes and coaches and personnel. I've had the opportunity to work at all levels. I had the opportunity, obviously, after I got my physical therapy degree, to open up sports medicine clinics on the side while I was in Michigan, and later became also the director of the University of Michigan Sports Medicine Program. And then an opportunity to work in the professional ranks was something I had my doubts on because my whole life in college athletics. And that was very important to me. I enjoyed seeing young people grow, getting to know the parents. So professional sports was very different. But, you know, when John Murray, one of my high school coaches who graduated from Wilmington in the 50s, took me down on a visit and met with Jake Van Scoy, the football coach at that time, and said, Russ Miller, if you come to Wilmington, you can be my student trainer. And that's where it all started. Unbelievable.
Russell, thank you for that. Craig, let's go to you next. How did your upbringing here in Clinton County shape your path to becoming an athletic trainer?
Great. Okay, you're coming through still a little bit baffled. I don't know whether we can improve on that at all, Shelby. I'm having a little bit of a difficult time here.
Let me see if I can move the TV around just a little bit.
Okay, you're coming through loud and clear there, Shelby. Perfect.
So, we'll give this a try.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on to one of the other panelists, and then we'll come right back to you in a little bit. Okay?
Great. Okay, that's fine. I can hear you much better.
All right.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
Sure.
And Mr. Miller, I would be honored to meet you one day and listen to some of the stories from your years in Michigan, but also with the Tigers. And obviously, you're a legend in our field, and thank you for what you've done. So my history is, to be honest with you, I'm going to cut right to the chase. One of my best friends from high school, Clinton Massive High School, came to Wilmington College, got his degree in athletic training, sports medicine. Nick Kenny, we played baseball together, played basketball together at Mass. And when I finished up at Wright State University, Nick was he was already the head athletic trainer for the Cincinnati Cyclones at such a young age, and it just speaks to his character and the type of person he is to have that opportunity. So when Cincinnati Moeller High School came open in the summer of '95, I had just finished up at Wright State again, and I had just passed my boards, and I was job searching. And Dr. Kremchek, Tim Kremchek, was the team medical director for the Cincinnati Cyclones at the time, and he asked Nick, he was a team doctor for Nick at the Cyclones. He asked Nick if he knew of anyone that would be a good fit at Moeller High School. So Nick called me right away, and I came down and met with Dr. Krimchak in his office there off of 275 Montgomery Road. It still takes me right back to that very day, and there was it was. I was kind of in awe because here I am, right out of college. I grew up about an hour north of Cincinnati. Loved high school sports. Played sports in high school myself. Went to Talawanda High School through my sophomore year, and then our family moved to Wilmington area and finished up at Massey in my last 2 years. But Moeller High School was, the school when it comes to sports. So here I am, fresh out of college, and have an opportunity to interview with the team medical director for Moeller High School. It was certainly it takes me back right to that time. I can't believe I'm in this position to even be interviewed, even be considered for it. So that interview went well, and then one of Dr. Krimchak's assistants, who was also a Wilmington College graduate, Shannon Urban. Her mom, Maxine Urban, was a longtime program director for Wilmington College's athletic training program. Shannon had already been working with Dr. Krimchak for a couple of years, and Shannon took me down to meet with the athletic directors at Moeller High School, and had a great visit with them as well. And next thing I know, I'm going back to his office, and Doc's offering me the job. I'm still, again, kind of pinch myself. So I don't even know what salary he offered. I just wanted to sign on right away. I was like, this is an unbelievable opportunity. I'm ready to go. So August 1st of 1995 was my first day at Moeller High School, and getting ready to go into my 30th year there. So it's been an unbelievable run, great experience. But again, having that connection with one of my good high school buddies from Clinton, Massey, Nick Kenny's Nick's a legend in our field as well. If Nick was in the area, he would be here tonight for sure. Nick's now the medical director basically of all the Kansas City Royals organization. So I owe a lot to Nick, and I think quite often when I see him.
Yeah. All right. Perry, your connection with Clinton County, how did that shape your path getting into athletic training?
Well, I'm going to ask Mr. Miller, do you remember some hot shot Wilmington College basketball players, Walt Hobble, Barth Littleton, and Joe Denehy, 1951 graduates?
I'm sorry.
Joe, do you, one of our guys here, Perry Denehy, was wondering if you have a recollection of Walt Hobble, Barth Littleton, or Joe Denehy?
Basketball players for college.
Little, yes, I'm trying to recall. Right.
That goes back a few years. But let me throw it back even further because I'm proud of it. My great-grandparents immigrated from Ireland, County Cork, Ireland, settled in Clinton County, Wilson Township, Sabina Pike. I've read I don't know if it was the Wilmington Journal back then, but the newspaper had a couple accounts of my great-grandfather winning some horseshoe championships. So that was his sports. They had 9 children here in Clinton County. The youngest of the 9 was my grandfather, Dennis Denehy, who played for the Clinton Elders. Was it baseball or softball?
Baseball.
Baseball, and another uncle. And so no wonder my father, Joe Denehy, growing up in that atmosphere, Sabina High School, basketball, baseball, prom king, class president. Somewhat amazed at all that, but no, I'm not. And then he came here to Wilmington College. He was in the evil Gobbler fraternity that has made a name for itself here on campus. But the good news was he met a young lady who was a Delt, sorority member who became my mother. So they got married, so there we go. And then I kind of skipped Wilmington and went to Miami University, but my younger brother Kyle came to Wilmington College and played basketball for 4 years. So that's my Clinton County connection. More recently, I've been working, filling in. Well, I retired from Sycamore High School after 33 years. I had a fortune, just like Craig, that right out of college, I had a nice offer to go to Sycamore High School, and I stayed for 33 years. So I think things worked out nicely. And now I'm not ready to stop, so I kind of help Craig out at Beacon Orthopedics whenever I can. But most recently, I've been at Blanchester High School this past school year, and I've been talking about going back and helping with football. Filled in a couple times at Wilmington, Clinton, Massey, and some other Clinton County schools. So that's my story.
All right, Mr. Miller, we're back to you. Were you an athlete growing up in high school?
You know what? I tried. I went out for football in the 8th grade. Now, keep in mind, I probably was about 6 foot and 75 pounds. I got knocked around a bit. So then I thought, you know, I think I'll try running track. Well, that didn't work out very well either. So it was at that point I loved athletics, and all my buddies, you know, were all playing sports, and I decided to sort of hang, and thank goodness my coaches in junior high said, well, why don't you just be one of our managers for the teams, and that's how it all started.
Now, were there any athletic trainers for your school back then?
No. In fact, very interesting. I don't know whether you ever heard of the Crane Chemical Company. They were a company in Kansas City that made athletic supplies, tape, etc. And my junior year in high school, they started a summer correspondence program that the football coach came to me and said, hey, I'm going to sign you up for this trainer student trainer course, so you can be my trainer, you know, for the football team and help you with the taping and etc. That was a real outstanding program. The Kramer brothers, well known for promoting obviously athletic training over the years. So that's so by the time I was, you know, my senior year, I was doing most of all the taping for the high school, you know, etc. So it gave me a head start. No, there were not. I look back, I'm dating myself. In 1964, my athletic director said, you know, I know the head trainer at Ohio State, Ernie Diggs. He said, if you would like to join the National Athletic Trainers Association, I'll get a hold of him and he will sponsor you. So, you know, while I was in Wilmington, you know, our football season was relatively short. So I made the connection with Mr. Diggs. So he was one of my mentors. So when I was done with football then, and in the off season whenever I could, and in the summer, he would invite me into seminars at Ohio State. So that was in my book, that was the athletic trainer that I knew, you know. And of course later on in career got to meet, you know, and of course that's the old joke, of course, you know, I'm an Ohio boy, and how did I ever get to Michigan? That's a long story too, but I can guarantee you if I would have had a chance to get the Ohio State job, I would have gone for it. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So, with Craig, I know you were an athlete. Do you recall your first experience with an athletic trainer as an athlete? And did that have any role in going forward for you?
Well, first of all, athlete, that's a very loose term. I tried, but honestly, I don't recall an athletic trainer being at Talawanda when I was playing basketball there in Oxford, and I don't recall. Maybe we had one at Mass at the time. That was graduated in '88. I just maybe I was lucky enough I didn't get hurt. I didn't need his or her services, but I don't remember us having one. My first experience, and you might be able to. Mr. Rudd might be able to answer that for me.
I did all the taping.
Mr. Ruddick, there you go. Yes. Again, back to what you said, the coaches. Coaches wore many hats, as they still do. My first experience with an athletic trainer, to be honest with you, was I did my undergraduate work at Berea College in Berea, Kentucky, which was also a work-study college similar to what Mr. Miller was just describing here at Wilmington College. Every student at Berea College had to work at least 15 to 20 hours a week before the college. And I was fortunate enough to, instead of like some of my friends getting stuck at 5 a.m. working in food service every morning, I was fortunate enough to be to work with the men's basketball program as their student manager starting out. And then, so as a student manager, I started, hanging out with the athletic trainer. Learning, kind of learning about the athletic training profession, and then we at Berea College we had during the month of January we had something called short term. So we just took one class during the whole month of January, and met 5 times a week. And my very first short term class was injury prevention, kind of an introduction to athletic training, and that was my first. That was my first experience with athletic training, and then so I continued to spend time with her name was Peggy, even when the basketball team was out of season. I just wanted to be a sponge and learn as much as I could from her. And I thought it was it's a very unique position where it's we're serving someone, and we still get to have be a part of something, be a part of that team and that brotherhood that I missed while I left after I graduated from Clinton Massey. So it allows you to still be a part of something bigger than yourself, and it also allows me and us to serve others, and that's something that I've always found value in, and being there. Harry's been doing it for a long time, Mr. Miller as well. Being there for that injured athlete from the time that they get hurt, and going through all the ups and downs through the injury recovery, injury rehab, and then seeing him or her going back onto the court, onto the field, into the game for that very first time, and it's an unbelievable sense of satisfaction, and that's just they play for trophies. We play for moments like that, where you can see your athlete get out there and get back to his or her sport that they love. And so that was my first experience in athletic training. And then I had the opportunity. It was my girlfriend at the time, now my wife of 29 years. Her dad is a barber over in Northern Kentucky and Fort Wright, Kentucky. He was actually the barber for the head athletic trainer for the Cincinnati Bengals. So when I mentioned to him that I think this is something I want to do, he made a phone call to Marv Collins, and Marv allowed me. Again, I was still at Berea College. I had not taken, other than that little short-term class, I had not taken any athletic training, sports medicine classes at all. But Marv Collins did my father-in-law a favor and allowed me to basically be as a student trainer for the Bengals, and I did that for two summers actually here at Wilmington College, two of the training camps, and that was certainly an unbelievable experience for me. And Marv was awesome. Marv obviously had the head AT position, so he didn't deal with the student trainers. I owe a lot to Paul Sportling, who was the assistant athletic trainer at the time, and then became the head athletic trainer for many years with the Bengals. And Paul really took me under his wing for those 2 summers. Again, they didn't, they didn't need to do that. That was nice of them to take me here, someone who's never had part of an athletic training program or hadn't had that yet. So I really had going into Wright State, I had a head start into athletic training, probably more so than my classmates.
Right. Now, with Perry, having gone to Mason, which now, I believe I'm right in this, I believe that's the largest school district in the state of Ohio. So to think that the largest school district in the state of Ohio has always had athletic trainers, but when you went there, it was probably on par with Blanchester. Blanchester was still in the FABC at that same time. So it's hard to believe that Blanchester is what it is, and Mason is 10 times bigger. So, same question. What was your first experience, or were there athletic trainers at Mason when you were in school?
Well, my father, as he not bounced around, but he had coaching and teaching responsibilities. And he was at King's, Goshen High School, where he won the state baseball championship in 1958, and then Brookville, Ohio. But then he had the opportunity. King's was in there. He didn't get fired. He just moved around a lot, I guess. But the big call was to go to Mason High School and be the first and only guidance counselor, the first guidance counselor. And so our family moved to Mason, which we referred to as Mayberry Mason. Back then, it wasn't even a city. It was 5,000 people. So that would have been about 1965. So when I graduated in 79 from Mason, there were probably 8,000. And now there's 36,000. That's how much Mason has grown. But I always had an interest in the firefighting, as well as not so much athletic training. I wanted to be a firefighter, EMT, but Mason had an all-volunteer fire department. And so my father, being the guidance counselor, kind of reminded me that you're not going to make much money on a volunteer fire department. So he thought maybe college wouldn't be a good idea, and I agreed. So I went off, but at the time, you're right, Mason had no athletic trainers. They had the local team doctor, Thomas Fox, and then they had the Mason Life Squad that would be there on Friday nights for football. And other than that, maybe the school nurse did a little bit. The coaches, like Mark mentioned, had to take care of a lot of that. But I'm going to give a shout out to Miami University, because we're all talking about legends. Well, Ken Wolford was the head athletic trainer at Miami, Oxford, and I know Mr. Miller talked about that Kramer workshop. Well, Ken Wolford had a workshop for students at Miami University, an overnight camp, and I believe Craig was. Did you ever go to that workshop? Oh, well, okay. I thought you did, but in our 4 years at Miami University, we did more than just cover the athletic teams. We worked at the Student Health Service. We worked in the emergency room at Colorado High uptown. We did intramural sports, and we were highly encouraged to go back and do Friday night football somewhere. So that would have been about 1980 through 83. We did have a graduate assistant assigned to Talawanda. So it would rotate, but there was always, one there. And then I drove back to Mason High School every Friday night for 4 years, home and away, because they did not have an athletic trainer. And I remember at the end of one season, the athletic director came up to me and he had promised me a little gas money. So he said, well, how much do I owe you? Well, I was working for $10 a game. So I said, he said, how many games did you go to? And I said, all of them, So you owe me $100, to help pay for gas driving back from Oxford to Mason. So it kind of flourished after that. But yeah, there were probably about the analogy with athletic trainers would be paramedics. That in the fire, the field of paramedics grew about the same rate or time that athletic trainers do.
All right, guys, next question. Can you hear me, Mr. Miller? Nope.
We'll come back to him. Let's, whichever one of you wants to pick this one, was there a moment where you were completely convinced this is what I want to do, to where there was no turning back to be an athletic trainer?
I think for myself, it's probably two-part. Growing up a huge Reds, huge Bengals fan, always watching the games on TV on Sundays, Bengals especially. The last thing I would ever expect or see myself doing would be in a training room with these professional athletes that you see on TV. So that was, and then watching Mark and watching Paul, do their interact with the players and do their thing with getting them ready for practice, getting them ready for treatments in between practice, getting them ready for the games. I actually had the opportunity to work a few of the preseason games down at the stadium, and being part of that game day experience with Mark and with Paul, that was something that really sold me. But the other part is when I was first taking classes at Wright State, Greg Harris, who a lot of people know, runs the Dreher physical therapy department here at the college at the sports sciences facility with Beacon. But Greg Harris at the time was the athletic trainer for Wilmington High School, and I've gotten to know Greg because he actually did the rehab for my sister Donna, who's here with us tonight, on her knees. We had to know Greg through her rehab, and Greg was gracious enough to allow me to hang out with him on a Friday night at Wilmington High School, covering the Wilmington High School football games. And I think that again, having those two experiences, one at the highest level you can get, and then also also having that experience at the high school level was probably two moments that really stuck with me.
Well, I would say, again, kudos to Ken Wolford at Miami University because he ran a top-notch program, well recognized, respected, and we didn't even have computers, but that man was so connected with the profession across the country and the NATA. So, I was ready to get into a high school and build a program. Maybe I didn't think I'd be at Miami University level, but I sure tried to provide all the resources and gadgets, time commitment, and so I had a mission to try to build a program, and fortunately Sycamore Schools supported that with financial and a lot of other folks in the community. But so that was in addition to Craig mentioned when you see an injured athlete go back on the field, but I also was proud to say this is my athletic training room. And I think if a visiting team visited or came to Sycamore, that they knew their injuries would be taken care of. So.
Okay, Mr. Miller, the question that I posed those two guys, a lot of people go to college for one thing and at some point switch gears. But for you, was there a moment that you said, no doubt, athletic training is what I want to get into. I'm not going to consider anything else. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
First of all, I just wanted to get an education, okay? My father went through the 9th grade. Things are very difficult. He was a tradesman, but I just wanted to get an education and I minored in biology and psychology, and my intent was, as soon as I could, other than getting my master's, was to get my physical therapy degree. Because even though I didn't get back to getting my physical therapy degree until I was 35, but again, once I started that course, and once Wilmington when Wilmington showed confidence in me to bring me back full time, then it was dead on. That was it. I can assure you, my first year in college, I wasn't the strongest academic person. And I often thought to myself, what am I going to do if I can't work with athletics? I guess I'll just go back home to Martin County and work in the factory. So that gave me a lot of initiative, because I just love sports. I love helping individuals return to their sport, particularly the many that I work with that are so talented. See them get out and perform. That's, that one of the problems, I'm going to give on a bandwagon a little bit, but one of the problems in athletic training is that we are always sort of back in the shadows. But that's sort of who we were. We didn't need to be recognized. We wanted just to help our athletes get back, and perform. And it was one of our downfalls, and thank goodness now the younger generations, of course, is really put more emphasis and we really try to do that, as time went on.
All right, Mr. Miller, what, during your time, from the 60s through the 2000s, what was the biggest change you witnessed in regards to athletic training?
Well, the diagnostic things, of course, were very, very, what a great change from, an individual with a knee injury. Obviously, if they couldn't perform, the only alternative was maybe surgery, and if there was surgery, you were done, and arthroscopy came along. And then I think all the insights with laser therapy, utilizing manual skills, all continue to develop. In fact, I often try to stress to my students, particularly those that are going into athletic training, I said you need to develop an ancillary skill along with your athletic training, whether it be orthotics, whether it be manual therapy or massage therapy or whatever. And of course, we've seen our athletes, our students, our trainers now, developing and are educated in a lot of those skills. Where before, what would we do? We had, as my athletes used to say, just go to Dr. Miller, he'll just tell you to put an ice pack on, and go from there. But obviously, a lot of the therapeutic equipment has really changed. I went into the training room at the University of Michigan last year, and I couldn't believe all the equipment and the facilities that are available, for the trainers now to help the athletes.
Thank you. Greg, you have the mic. During your time, what's the biggest change you've seen?
I think two parts. One of the areas for sure is when I first started at Bowler, it was myself and Dr. Kremchak. We saw a high level volume of athletes, and now we've developed really a team, a sports medicine team, obviously Dr. Kremchek, who heads over all of it, but also we have a physical therapist that comes to the school once a week that works with our athletes. We have a team chiropractor that we have access to. We have an orthopedic fellow that is doing a 1-year fellowship training with Dr. Kremchek and some of his other partners at Beacon, and he or her, we had a female, phenomenal female doctor a couple of years ago that is assigned to Moeller High School, and they come out to Moeller and they do an injury check visit every usually Monday afternoon, coming off the weekends. So having access to someone like that, and now, I flew solo for 27 plus years at Moeller, and now to have a full-time co-worker working with me alongside me has been a blessing. So I think it's we've now developed a team approach, and along with that is the urgency of how quickly we can get our athletes seen at the office, taken care of, how quickly we can get the diagnostic testing that needs to be done. An injury happens on a Friday night, they're seeing Dr. Kremchek's first thing Saturday morning. They need an MRI, they're getting an MRI before noon on Saturday. We're getting results immediately, and we're giving our head football coaches especially, an injury update, at the end of the day, before the end of the day on Saturday. So, having that quick turnaround obviously makes us as athletic trainers look really good with the parents and the coaches. But then also, like Mr. Miller mentioned, having access to new toys in the training room. Before we had heat, we had ice, we had atomic bomb with Kramer, and then we also whirlpools. But now we have other toys and other ancillary equipment that we can use as far as cupping sets, scraping tools. We just Dr. Kremchek just donated some funds to help us with a blood flow restriction equipment. So this would be BFR cuffs. So it's equipment-wise, having access to more toys, more tools for our toolbox certainly has made a big difference.
Well, I'm going to agree with Dr. Miller and Craig on the new gadgets and toys, but I'm going to maybe throw a zinger back to Mark and say what hasn't changed over the years is the relationship athletic trainers have with their athletes. And specifically, when one of your kids who's injured or maybe hasn't told anybody they're injured, they haven't told their parents, they certainly aren't going to tell the coach because the coach is going to yell at them or think they're up. They're going to tell us. Hopefully we have their confidence and their trust. So, we're going to hear about it, and hopefully we do. And then it expands not just athletic injuries, but you get the social, the stress at school, home life, and so I think that year after year after year is consistent. We don't stick our nose where it's not appreciated or wanted, but we certainly are that middle ground between the hustle and bustle and all the pressure with athletics now. And we're kind of like, you can come into our living room and just hang out for a while, and I know Craig does a great job with that as well.
Yeah, because I don't think it used to be, the players didn't want to see you guys, because they don't look at me, and then I can still get out there and play, and so that relationship I think there's certainly more trust now than maybe there was when this whole thing kind of just started to get off the ground.
Okay, guys, the final question, and you probably, all of you, probably have a million of these, but if you can give me 2 or 3 minutes, a story. It could be a feel-good story, it could be a horror story, it could be a funny story. Leave us with something that comes to mind when you think back on, maybe regardless of whether it was with Michigan or Detroit or even Wilmington College.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think it's, used to be, people didn't, the players didn't want to see you guys, and so that relationship
you know, most of my career was in college athletics, so you had head coaches and assistant coaches. And of course, when I was at Michigan, Bo was the coach, Schembecker. So I go to the Detroit Tigers, and Sparky Anderson is my manager. And so my first meeting with Sparky was, I called him coach. And he immediately said, you may call Bo Schembecker coach. I'm the manager. And I said, what do you want me to call you? He said, you can just call me Skipper. That'll be fine. So that's my indoctrination from college athletics to professional baseball, going from Bo Schembecker to Sparky Anderson.
Well, of course, a lot of people, we even have a guy with a Cincinnati red shirt in our audience here, so a lot of people here are pretty familiar with Sparky and what he did with the Reds before he went up to Detroit. So we appreciate that story.
Okay.
You were stuck with the microphone.
Oh,
so
that's going to be
go ahead.
impossible to top. I've got, I guess, a couple stories. So, you know, first year at Moore High School, you know, I grew up, you know, on a farm about an hour north of Cincinnati, and you know, grew up, you know, in a Baptist church. My parents actually celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary a couple days ago, 60th. So, to preface all this, they got married in the Quaker church here, the French church here in Wilmington. So one of my first you know, experiences at you know, kind of something that still I feel like takes me right there is that when it was after school, you know, guys started coming into the training room, and all of a sudden I see a couple, you know, these guys have this black smudge on their forehead. I'm like, what? Guys, you got something on your forehead. What's going on? Everyone of you has this on your forehead. And me being oblivious, it was Ash Winston. And they had also had service earlier in the school day, so that was that was something that they will never. They gave me a hard time for a long time about that. The next two stories are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. There was an event on Muller's football field about 7 years ago, and I was covering a lacrosse game, and we were playing Centerville High School, and one of the Centerville lacrosse players took a ball right to his chest, and it threw his chest into commotio cordis, which is the same event that DeMar Hamlin had not that long ago, it seems like. But so that was a moment that I'll never forget, and the good Lord was watching over our field that day. We had the AD there present, and thank God it worked after only one shot. So you know, I went from you know, his parents screaming over my head, pray for my son, to an hour later I'm in the emergency room having a small talk with this athlete and his parents. So that was certainly a moment that I'll never forget. And to this day, his dad reaches out to me on the anniversary of when it happened, and it's just something I'll never forget. To fast forward, there was that's a hard one to move from, but thank God we had a positive result that day. Another moment that I'll never forget, you know, we had a high-level football/basketball player that had a season-ending surgery, ended his football season his junior year, and had surgery in I think it was September, and we were able to rehab him and get him back to where he practiced 3 days before the state semifinal game. Played a few minutes in the state semifinal game, and got along fine. And then we won that game. We were fortunate to win that game. So we're in the state championship game, and this athlete ends up being the MVP of the state championship game that year in basketball. So seeing, being there again the day that kid goes down, on a potential, career-ending injury, and then seeing him a few months later, play at the highest level and win the state championship, and for him to be the MVP of that game was something I'll surely never forget.
Well, my first quick one is one of the jobs athletic trainers have is we try to educate our coaches as to what to do for injuries and if we're not there. And so we were doing a CPR class with our Sycamore coaches, and the Montgomery Fire Department was there. They had the coaches in the room, and the paramedic or the instructor said, "Okay, guys and ladies, can anyone tell me what CPR stands for?" And so Bob Velton, Coach Bob Velton, just blurted out, "CPR stands for call Perry repeatedly." So everybody was laughing about it, but it made me feel good that I'll be there if you need me. Fortunately, I have not had a life or death situation like Craig did, but I did see that young man a week later when Centerville played Sycamore, and he gave a little talk, pregame to everybody there, which was totally, So the other one would be, again, a broad stroke, that as an athletic trainer, I've been able to get wedding invitations and graduation announcements, and with social media, Facebook specifically, I know some people don't like it, but it really allows me to hear how everybody's doing, their families now. I go over to Moeller, and I bet there's a dozen that their parents were Sycamore parents, and their kids are going to Moeller, so the kids kind of surprised when I start telling stories about their parents. So it just kind of refuels and says, hey, this is a pretty good job. It's really been good. I'm not ready to stop. So that's how that goes.
Do any of you have questions for any of these three? Yeah.
Not really a question, but just kind of relating what you were talking about, how things have changed. I'm at the age where I grew up playing sports in the 60s, 70s, and even before that, having injuries. And my dad, who was best friends with Perry's dad, Joe, they joined forces out here at Wilmington College.
We can tell some stories on that.
Yeah, we got stories. But anyhow, Dad played football here like in late 40s, 49. And I guess he got his ideas of treatment for athletic injuries from Wilmington College. Because when I was a little kid, I had hundreds of sprained ankles. And some of them pretty serious. And without fail, every time, my dad would get boiling hot water and Epsom salts. And I would stick my ankles in boiling hot water and Epsom salts with an injury. Now fast forward to 1979, I was a student at Wilmington College with Roger Tewksbury as teaching athletic training, because I was in education and coaching. Took that class. I learned so much in that class. One of the things I learned was you never put hot water and Epsom salts in a sprain. You use ice. So I needed to thank my dad for all my injuries. But I go back to Joe and my dad and Mark. I thought it was you. I was looking up. But my dad and Joe went to 46, 47 straight state basketball tournaments. And there was an article in the news journal back in the 80s. Dad's got all the programs, and Joe probably has them too, but it's just ironic that brings us together on Wilmington College's campus for you guys. So thank you. It's really great.
No, we don't use hot water and Epsom salts.
I don't even know what Epsom salt was, but I heard it's still better.
Go ahead.
I think there's a lot of concern on concussions, and can you explain the program at your children's hospital or something?
fortunate. Children's Hospital reached out to myself and Mike Gordon, the athletic trainer at St. X, as well as a couple other schools in the Cincinnati area, and we were part of a really unique study. They were in the early ground stages of something that now you're seeing more and more of, something called the Q collar, and it is it's an apparatus that athletes wear around their neck, and what it does, it occludes the carotid artery, carotid vein to allows for more pulling inside the cranium to help diminish the sloshing effect of the brain. So we were part of a study where sometime one year we were a control group, another year we were the test group. It was us and St. X doing it together, and we had accelerometers on their helmets that they would download information from and put it in the cloud, and it also these athletes would sign up and they would do an MRI on their brain prior to the season, and they would do one after the season, and the results were pretty impressive over the 5 to 7 years of that program, of that research study, and now you're starting to see more and more athletes with the Q collars, wearing the Q collars around their neck. So it was a unique experience to be a part of that, for sure, at the ground level. But when you think about it, it's the same effect as the woodpecker. The woodpecker, when they were saying why doesn't a woodpecker get one concussion after another when they're banging their head against a tree? Because they have some type of tendon or ligament or muscle that wraps around their vein that feeds that pulls from the brain and the cranial cavity, and it's the same kind of mechanism. So it's when you think about it, it's diminishing or decreasing the sloshing effect inside the cranium. That's the goal, and with that decreases, not necessarily, it doesn't prevent the concussions, but it certainly helps to diminish or decrease the severity of it.
Correct. So I remember when I was practicing in concussion care, the criteria was if you were unconscious less than 3 minutes, you could go back in the game. So it was only if you were knocked unconscious longer than 3 minutes that we kept you out of the game. And it was like, do you have symptoms? Well, let's wait halftime and we'll see how you do it. We weren't breaking the rules. That's what everybody was doing back then. So luckily, that's changed.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
You find it difficult to keep up with the equipment that's being released now? How involved are you in project equipment for the athletes?
I like great. Got a favorite program.
That's a great question. So you're right, there are newer helmet styles coming out every year. We have to train on those, and we do a sideline immersion course every year prior to football starting in mid to late July, and we practice removing the face mask. We practice removing the helmets and removing the shoulder pads. And you've got to be familiar with these new helmets that are coming out, and you got to have the right tools to take the class off the face mask. And it's something you have to practice. Last thing you want to do is be in a moment where you have to get that face mask off as soon as possible and not have the right training or have the right tools to remove the face mask.
Yeah, it's not universal hardware. Each manufacturer has a different little screw type, or I don't know why they just don't make it standardized.
That's a great question.
Go ahead.
I have a question for Russ. Should I come up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Should I come up there?
Yeah.
All right.
That way you can hear you.
I found the microphone that he hears. What Where am I talking? Right here. Hey Russ, Randy Sarvis, how you doing?
Great.
Good to see you. So at the University of Michigan, those teams won some Rose Bowls and I think national championships. I can't recall whether Sparky Anderson's Tigers won a World Series, like Kirk Gibson when you were there, but you were part of those organizations that reached the pinnacle, the championship of Division I college football, the World Series championship. How did it feel to be part of those organizations that you were, you know, millions of people were watching on TV and you were really a part of their success?
Well, you know, you're giving me a lot of accolades there. First of all, you know, granted, we did spend a lot of time together. I brought it to 10 champions. That's been the multiple problems. I didn't mind, I went not under the truck. They both little got there with Mark. Did 1990 was the first year that we got sport coach. I was there in 91. Oh, one of them, my mother got there for bus. So, for me, even though I was at the test, I was right that I was able to help you know, character and walk up here on an basis. So that's probably the most exciting thing for, you know, you have not that the, you know, not the championships or programs or whatever, or more that you have an opportunity to have global university, take one, or the Allen travels, or the group gets used or many others that were just good world of athletes. And I was so fortunate to have 12 people were all that I still what I remember so far. That's what I have so far.
Well, Mr. Miller, we feel very fortunate to have you here tonight, even though we had some audio issues there. We still appreciate your time, as do we appreciate the time of Craig Lindsey and Perry Denehy for tonight.
To talk about that. Thank you so much.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a picture in just a minute. Give me just a
Well,
second.
we'll give him a minute before he goes away.
Russell, if you'll hang on for just a minute, we're going to get a picture here after a bit,
Very
okay?
good, thank you.
Thank you all so much for attending our program. I hope that you enjoyed it and you were able to walk away with something, learning something, or understanding sports a little bit better than when you came in. Thank you again to Mark Huber and all of his help in planning this event as well. Thank you to Craig, Perry, and Russell for their time. As a reminder for those who may have not attended last month, the Clinton County History Center is seeking sports memorabilia or school-related items for our museum, because in planning for our Beyond the Scoreboard exhibit, down, we don't have a lot of varsity jackets or sports memorabilia or things representing Clinton County sports. So we are really working to build that collection, and if that's something that you have you'd like to part with or put on a loan agreement, we would be happy to discuss that as well. We have some upcoming dates for programs. They are on the back of your paper there. And our next upcoming one will be, it's going to be our Wilmington College Sports Night, which will be back in this room on July 30th. It's a Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to have Simon Hayes, David Rest, Jerry Sheedy, and Ashley Johnson-Wolf joining us for that program. We would love to see all of you back here for that as well. And at the bottom of your paper on the other side, you actually have free entrance into the Beyond the Scoreboard exhibit at the Clinton County History Center by attending tonight's event. So if you'd like to stop by, the hours are on that piece of paper. And again, thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to learn more about